Hello, third graders. I just got off a Zoom meeting with so many of you. It's always so good to see your faces each week. It's the favorite part of my week for sure. Well, we left off on we finished chapter 15, and when Miss Pinched faced Amanda walked in, Franny Block said, "Sorry, but I'm busy. You're going to have to sit down and listen to my story, and then I'll help you." So Opal and Amanda are listening to a story that Franny Block is going to tell. So it's about Litmus Block. So Litmus Block was Franny Block's grandpa. Litmus W. Block was just a boy when the firing on Fort Sumter occurred, Miss Franny Block said as she started in on her story. Fort Sumter? I said. It was firing on Fort Sumter that started the war, said Amanda. Oh, okay, I shrugged. Well, Litmus was just 14 years old. He was strong and big, but he was still just a boy. His daddy, Artley W. Block, had already enlisted, and Litmus told his mama that he could not stand by and just let the South get beat, and so he went to fight. Miss Franny looked around the library, and then she whispered, "Men and boys always want to fight. They are always looking for reasons to go to war. It's the saddest thing. Oh, they have this abiding notion that war is fun, and no history lesson will convince them differently." Anyway, Litmus went and enlisted for the war. He lied about his age. Yes, ma'am, like I said, he was a big boy. And the army took him. And Litmus went off to war just like that. Left behind his mother and 3 sisters, he went off to be a hero. But he soon found out the truth about war. Miss Franny closed her eyes and shook her head. "What truth?" I asked her. "War is hell," said Miss Franny with her eyes still closed. "Pure hell." "Hell is a cuss word," said Amanda. I stole a look at her. Her face was all pinched up, even more than usual. "War," said Miss Franny, with her eyes still closed, "should be a cuss word, too." She shook her head and opened her eyes. She pointed at me, and then she pointed at Amanda. Neither of you can imagine." "No, ma'am," said Amanda. Exactly, and me exactly at the same time. We looked real quick at each other and then back at Miss Franny. "You cannot imagine. Litmus was hungry all the time, and he was covered with a manner of vermin, fleas, and lice, and in the winter he was so cold he thought for sure he was going to freeze to death. And in the summer, why, there's nothing worse than winter or war in the summertime. It stinks. And the only thing that made Litmus forget that he was hungry and itchy and hot or cold was that he was getting shot at. He got shot at quite a bit, and he was nothing more than just a 14-year-old child. "Did he get killed?" I asked Franny. "Good grief," said Amanda. She rolled her eyes. "Now, Opal," said Miss Franny, "I wouldn't be standing in this room telling this story if he was killed. I wouldn't exist. No, ma'am, he had to live. But he was a changed man. Yes, ma'am, a changed man. He walked back home when the war was over. He walked from Virginia all the way back to Georgia. He didn't even have a horse. Nope, nobody had a horse then except for the Yankees. He walked, and when he got home, there was no one there." Where was it?" I asked her. "There was no one home? Where was it?" I didn't care if Amanda thought I was stupid. I wanted to know. "Why," Miss Franley shouted so loud that Winn, Dixie, and Amanda Wilkinson and me all jumped. "The Yankees! They burned his home! Yes, ma'am, burned it to the ground." What about his sisters? Amanda asked. She moved around the desk and came and sat on the floor. She looked up at Miss Franny. What happened to the sisters? Dead of typhoid fever. Oh no, said Amanda in a real soft voice. And his mama? I whispered. Dead too. And his father? Amanda asked. Excuse me. What happened to him? He died in the battlefield. Litmus was an orphan? Yes, ma'am, said Miss Franny Block. Litmus was now an orphan. This is a sad story, I told Miss Franny. It sure is, said Amanda. I was amazed that she was agreeing with me about something. I am not done yet, said Miss Franny. When Dixie started to snore, and I nudged him with my foot to make him quit. I wanted to hear the rest of the story. It was important to me to hear how Litmus survived after losing everything he loved. You want to hear the next chapter? All right, let's do it. Chapter 17. Well, Litmus came home from the war, said Miss Franny as she went on with her story, and found himself alone. He sat down on what used to be the front step of his house, and he cried, and he cried, and he cried, just like a baby. He missed his mama, and he missed his daddy, and he missed his sisters, and he missed the boy that he used to be. When he finally finished crying, he had the strangest sensation. He felt like he wanted something sweet. He wanted a piece of candy. He hadn't had a piece of candy in years. Can you imagine? No candy in years? It was right then that he made a decision. Yes, ma'am, Litmus W. Block figured that the world was a sorry affair and that it had enough ugly things in it. And he was going to concentrate on putting something sweet into it. He got up and he started walking. He walked all the way to Florida. And the whole time he was walking, he was planning. That's like walking through 3 states. Holy cow. Planning what? I asked. Why, planning the candy factory. Did he build it? I asked. Of course he did. It's still standing on Fairville Road. That old building, said Amanda. That big spooky building? It's not spooky, said Miss Franny. It was the birthplace of my family fortune. It was there that my great-grandfather manufactured the Litmus lozenge, a candy that was famous through the whole world over. I've never heard of it, said Amanda. Me neither, I said. Well, said Miss Franny, they don't make them anymore. The world, it seems, has lost its appetite for Litmus lozenges. But I still happen to have a few. She opened the top drawer of her desk. It was full of candy. Miss Franny, it was full of candy too. Miss Franny Block's whole desk was full of candy. Would you care for a Litmus lozenge? She asked Amanda and me. Yes, please, said Amanda. Sure, I said. Can Winn Dixie have one too? I've never heard of a dog that cared for hard candy, said Miss Franny, but he is welcome to try one. Miss Franny gave Amanda 1 Litmus lozenge and me 2. I unwrapped one and held it out to Winn Dixie. He sat up, sniffed it, wagged his tail, and took the candy between my fingers real gentle. He tried to chew on it, and that didn't work, so he just swallowed it, the whole thing, in one gulp. Then he wagged his tail at me, and he lay back down. I, on the other hand, ate my litmus lozenge slow. It tasted good. It tasted like root beer and strawberry and something else I didn't have a name for. Something that made me feel kind of sad. I looked over at Amanda. She was sucking on her candy and thinking real hard. "Do you like it?" Miss Franny asked me. "Yes, ma'am," I told her. "What about you, Amanda? Do you like it?" "Yes, ma'am," she said. "But it makes me think of things that I feel sad about." I wondered what in the world Amanda Wilkinson had to feel sad about. She wasn't new to town. She had a mama and a daddy. I had even seen them in church with her. "There's a secret ingredient in there," Miss Franny said. "I know it," I told her. "I can taste it. What is it?" "Sorrow," said Miss Franny. "Not everybody can taste it. Children, especially, seem to have a hard time knowing that it's there." "I taste it," I said. "Me too," said Amanda. "Well then," Miss Franny said, "you have probably had your share of sadness." "I had to move away from Whatley and leave all my friends," I said. "That is one sadness I have lived. And Dunlap and Stevie Dewberry are always picking on me. There's another sadness. And the biggest one, my biggest sadness, is that my mama left me when I was still small, and I can hardly remember her. I keep hoping I'll get to meet her and tell her some stories." "It makes me miss Carson," said Amanda. She sounded like she was going to cry. "I have to go." And she got up. She almost ran out of the Herman W. Block Library. "Who's Carson?" I asked Miss Franny. She shook her head. "Sorrow," she said. "It is a sorrow-filled world." "But how do you put that in a piece of candy?" I asked her. "How did you get that taste in there?" "That's the secret," she said. "That's why Litmus made a fortune. He manufactured a piece of candy that tasted sweet and sad at the same time." "Can I have a piece to take to my friend Gloria Dump, and another one to take to Otis down to Gertrude's Pets, and another one for the preacher?" I asked. "And for Sweetie Pie, too." "You may have as many as you want," said Miss Franny. So I stuffed my pockets full of litmus lozenges, and I thanked Miss Franny for her story. I checked out Gone with the Wind, which was a very big book, and I told Winn Dixie to get up, and the two of us left and went over to Gloria Dump's. I rode right past the Dewberry's house. Dunlap and Stevie were outside playing football in the front yard, and I was getting ready to stick my tongue out at them. But then I thought about what Miss Franny Box said about war being hell, and I thought about what Gloria Dump said about not judging those boys too hard. So I just waved instead. They stood, and they stared at me. But when I was almost all the way past, I saw Dunlap put his hand up and waved back. "Hey," he hollered. "Hey, Opal." I waved harder, and I thought about Amanda and how it was neat that she liked a good story the same as I did. And I wondered, who was Carson? We'll find out next time. See you soon.